The stars hung cold and distant in the darkness of space. Near the edge of human territory, a small colony called New Pyongyang orbited a blue-green planet. The colony was young, only 15 years old, with 50,000 people who had left Earth to start fresh lives among the stars. Captain Ji-won Kim stood on the bridge of the warship Indomitable, watching the scanner display with calm eyes. She was 43 years old, with short black hair and a face that rarely showed emotion. She had served in the Earth Defense Force for 20 years, and she knew how to stay cool when trouble came knocking. "Captain, we have multiple contacts entering the system," said the sensor officer, a young man named Bomin. His voice was steady, but Ji-won could hear the tension underneath. "Counting 47 ships. They just dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the system." Ji-won nodded slowly. "Distance? 3 million kilometers and closing. They're heading straight for the colony." Lieutenant Hyun Park, the weapons officer, turned in her chair. She was 26, eager and sharp. "Should I bring weapons online, Captain?" "Not yet," Ji-won said. "Let's see what they want first." Open all communication channels. The alien fleet was massive. Each ship was different from human vessels. They looked organic, like they had been grown instead of built. The hulls were smooth and curved, colored in shades of purple and deep blue. They moved through space like a school of fish, perfectly coordinated. On the lead ship, Admiral Velmora stood in the command chamber. She was tall, nearly 3 meters, with 4 arms and skin that shimmered like oil on water. Her species, the Vacthron, had ruled 200 star systems for 5,000 years. They were warriors and conquerors, and they had never lost a major battle. "Sub-Commander Thexali, report," Velmora said. Her voice was deep and resonant. Thexali was smaller than the Admiral, with only 2 arms, but his mind was sharp. He studied the scanner readings carefully. "The colony ahead has approximately 50,000 inhabitants. Primitive construction, basic fusion reactors. They appear to be a new species in this region. And their defenses, 1 ship, Admiral. A single vessel in orbit around the colony." Velmora's mouth opened in what humans might recognize as a smile. 1 ship against 47. "These humans are either very brave or very foolish. Perhaps both," Thexali said quietly. He felt uneasy, though he couldn't explain why. Something about this situation didn't feel right. Back on the Indomitable, Ji-won watched the alien fleet approach. They were moving fast, not trying to hide their intentions. This was a show of force meant to intimidate. "Captain, we're receiving a transmission," said Communications Officer Taewon. "Put it through." The main screen flickered, and Admiral Velmora's image appeared. She spoke in her own language, but the translation software converted it to human speech instantly. "Attention, human vessel. I am Admiral Velmora of the Vacthron Sovereignty. This system lies within our expansion territory. You have 30 minutes to evacuate your colony and leave this space. If you refuse, we will remove you by force. This is your only warning." The transmission ended. The bridge was silent for a moment. Ji-won could feel her crew watching her, waiting for orders. Down on the colony, 50,000 people were going about their daily lives, unaware that their existence had just been threatened. Hyun leaned forward. "Captain, they can't be serious. 47 ships against 1? They're trying to scare us into running." "Maybe," Ji-won said. "But they don't know us yet. They don't know what humans are capable of." She stood up from her command chair and walked to the center of the bridge. "Taewon, open a channel. Let me speak to their admiral." "Channel open, Captain." Ji-won looked directly at the camera. Her voice was calm and clear. "Admiral Velmora, this is Captain Ji-won Kim of the Earth Defense Force warship Indomitable. New Pyongyang is a sovereign human colony. We will not abandon our people. If you want this system, you'll have to go through us. I suggest you reconsider." She made a cutting motion across her throat. Taewon closed the channel. "Captain," Bowman said from sensors, "the alien fleet is changing formation. They're spreading out, preparing for an attack pattern." "Expected," Ji-won said. She returned to her chair. "All crew, this is the captain. Battle stations. Seal all bulkheads. Marines, prepare for possible boarding actions. Engineering, I need full power to all systems." Throughout the ship, alarms began to sound. Red lights flashed in the corridors as blast doors slammed shut. In the engineering section, Chief Engineer Dae-hyun Choi began routing power from the auxiliary reactors. Down in the Marine Bay, Corporal Min-ho Lee and his team checked their weapons and armor. On the Vacthron flagship, Thexali watched the human ship on the scanners. "Admiral, they're not retreating. In fact, they're not doing anything. Just sitting there in orbit. Foolish, Velmora said. Do they think we're bluffing? She turned to her weapons officer. Charge all plasma cannons. Prepare to fire on my command. The Vacthron ships moved closer, forming a massive arc around the human vessel. Each ship began to glow as their biological weapons systems charged with energy. It was an impressive sight, meant to terrify any enemy into surrender, but the Indomitable didn't move. It hung in space like a gray fortress, silent and waiting. Ji-won sat in her command chair, her fingers drumming quietly on the armrest. She had been in tight situations before, but never anything like this. 47 against 1. The odds were terrible, but she had one advantage these aliens didn't know about yet. Hyun, she said quietly. Status on the primary systems. All weapons locked and loaded, Captain. Point defense grid ready. Railguns charged. Missiles armed. Main cannon standing by. And the stealth plating? Still active. They're only seeing what we want them to see. Ji-won allowed herself a small smile. Good, let's keep it that way for now. The Vacthron fleet continued to close in. 2 million kilometers. 1.5 million. 1 million. Thexali studied his sensors more carefully now. He frowned, his two arms working multiple controls at once. Admiral, I'm detecting some unusual readings from the human ship. What kind of readings? Energy fluctuations. Very small, but they're there. And the ship's mass doesn't quite match the visual profile. Velmora waved a hand dismissively. Sensor errors. Their technology is primitive. We've seen their colony. Nothing advanced about it. Yes, Admiral, Thexali said, but the uneasy feeling in his stomach grew stronger. The fleet was now at optimal firing range. Every Vacthron ship had its weapons locked on the Indomitable. One word from the Admiral and they would unleash enough firepower to vaporize a small moon. Velmora raised one of her forearms. All ships prepare to fire on my mark. On the Indomitable, Ji-won took a deep breath. This was it, the moment when everything would change. She pressed a button on her armrest. Dae-hyun, she said calmly, drop the stealth plating. Show them what we really are. In the engineering section, Dae-hyun's fingers flew across his console. Dropping stealth plating now, Captain. Extending full combat configuration. Throughout the ship, systems came alive, and the Vacthron fleet was about to get their first real look at a human warship. The transformation began slowly, then accelerated into something beautiful and terrifying. The outer hull of the Indomitable started to shift. What had appeared to be smooth gray plating began to separate and move. Panels slid aside with mechanical precision, revealing the true structure underneath. Hidden weapon ports emerged from the surface like flowers opening to the sun. Except these flowers were designed to kill. On the Vacthron flagship, Sensor Officer Kyulvan stared at his display in confusion. Admiral, the human ship. It's changing. What do you mean, changing? Velmora demanded. The hull is opening up. No, not opening. Reconfiguring. I'm detecting massive energy spikes. The signature is increasing by orders of magnitude. Thexali rushed to the sensor station, his two arms working frantically. By the ancestors, he whispered. The Indomitable continued its transformation. Large sections of the hull rotated outward, revealing rows upon rows of weapons. Point defense cannons emerged from compartments that had been invisible moments before. Hundreds of them bristled across every surface of the ship, like scales on a dragon's back. Lieutenant Hyun watched her weapons display light up like a festival. All systems coming online, Captain. Point defense grid active. Primary weapons unlocked. Good, Ji-won said. Let's make sure they get a really good look. Massive railgun turrets rose from their concealed positions along the ship's spine. Each turret was 20 meters wide, capable of launching projectiles at a significant fraction of light speed. There were 8 of them, and they tracked slowly across space, targeting solutions already calculated for every ship in the Vacthron fleet. But the most dramatic change came from the ship's sides. Huge panels extended outward like wings, revealing glowing radiator arrays. The panels were bright with heat, barely contained power radiating from advanced cooling systems. The ship needed them because the reactors inside were running at temperatures that could ignite small stars. Captain, reactor temperature stable at operating maximum, Chief Engineer Dae-hyun reported from engineering. We're putting out enough energy to power a small city. Let them see it, Ji-won said. I want them to understand what they're dealing with. The ship's true size became apparent as the stealth plating fully retracted. What had appeared to be a vessel 300 meters long was actually over 900 meters. The entire front third of the ship had been hidden by advanced stealth technology, and that section housed the main weapon. Thexali's hands trembled as he read the sensor data. Admiral, the ship's actual mass is 3 times what we initially detected. Energy output is... It's impossible. Nothing biological could generate that much power. What kind of reactor are they using? Velmora asked. Her voice was no longer confident. Not antimatter. Not biological fusion. This is, Admiral, I think it's stellar-class fusion. They're running a miniature star inside that ship. Around the Vacthron fleet, other sensor officers were reporting similar findings to their captains. Confusion spread through the alien armada like ripples in water. This wasn't what they had expected. This wasn't a primitive colony ship pressed into military service. This was something else entirely. Kulvan's voice rose in pitch. Admiral, I'm detecting missile bays. Dozens of them. They're opening now. Along the Indomitable's flanks, armored hatches slid open. Inside each bay sat sleek missiles, each one tipped with a warhead that made the Vacthron weapons look like toys. These were nuclear-pumped laser missiles, each carrying a small fusion bomb that would, in its final moment, convert all its energy into a directed beam of coherent light. One missile could cut a Vacthron ship in half. The Indomitable had 140 of them. Captain, the alien fleet has stopped advancing, Bowman reported. They're holding position. Good, Jiwan said. That means they're thinking. Hyun target solutions? Locked on all 47 ships, Captain. Firing solutions loaded and ready. In the Vacthron fleet, Admiral Velmora stared at the transformed human warship. Her forearms hung at her sides, and for the first time in her long military career, she felt something unfamiliar. Doubt. Thexali, analysis. Can we take that ship? The sub-commander worked his controls, running combat simulations. The numbers that came back made his stomach turn. Admiral, in a direct engagement, we would likely win, but our casualties would be catastrophic. The computer estimates we would lose between 25 and 30 ships. 30 ships? Velmora's voice was quiet. Out of 47? Yes, Admiral. And that's assuming the human vessel doesn't have any other surprises, which, given what we've already seen, seems unlikely. War Priest Kexthur, who had been silent until now, stepped forward. He was old, his skin darker than the others, covered in ritual scars. This is cowardice. We have superior numbers. We attack and crush them, whatever the cost. The cost is half our fleet, Thexali said sharply. This isn't cowardice. It's mathematics. On the Indomitable, Jiwan made her next move. Communications, open a channel. Let me speak to them again. The channel opened, and Admiral Velmora's face appeared on the screen once more. She looked different now, less certain. Admiral, Jiwan said calmly, you can see now that your initial assessment was incorrect. This is a military warship designed and built for combat. We have been watching your fleet since you entered the system. We have targeting solutions on every one of your vessels. We can fire before you can. Velmora said nothing, but her expression confirmed the truth of Jiwan's words. However, Jiwan continued, we don't want to fight. We're not here to conquer anyone. We're here to protect our colony. If you leave peacefully, we'll let you go. No shots fired. No casualties. Everyone goes home. And if we choose to attack anyway? Velmora asked. Jiwan's face remained emotionless. Then we'll defend ourselves. And you'll learn why humans build ships like this one. The transmission ended. Corporal Minho Lee stood in the Marine Bay with his team, armor sealed and weapons ready. They had been listening to the bridge communications. Do you think they'll back down? Asked Private Sujin, a young woman on her first deployment. Maybe, Minho said. Or maybe they're too proud. Either way, we're ready. The Marines checked their equipment one more time. If the Vacthron tried to board, they would find that humans were just as dangerous up close as they were at range. In the Vacthron fleet, debate raged. Some captains wanted to attack immediately. Others urged caution. The War Priest preached about honor and the glory of battle, but more practical voices pointed out that losing 30 ships was not glorious. It was suicidal. Thexali studied the human ship more carefully, using passive sensors only. He noticed something else. Admiral, the human reactor isn't just powerful. It's stable. Perfectly stable. They have complete control over a stellar-class fusion reaction. What does that mean? Velmora asked. It means they've been doing this for a while. This isn't experimental technology. This is refined, perfected. Admiral, this isn't their first warship. They've built others. That single observation changed everything. If this was standard human military technology, then how many more ships like this existed? How powerful was humanity's full fleet? Velmora made a decision. She raised her hand, and the Vacthron fleet stopped its combat preparations. Weapons began to power down, though targeting systems remained active. All ships hold position, she ordered. We're not attacking yet. Yet? Thexali asked. I need more information, Velmora said. Before I send thousands of my people to their deaths, I need to understand what we're really facing. On the Indomitable, sensors detected the change in the alien fleet's posture. Captain, they're standing down, Bowman reported. Weapons are powering down. But they're not leaving, Jiwan observed. No, Captain. They're just waiting. Jiwan nodded slowly. The immediate threat had passed, but the situation was far from over. The Vacthron had seen what the Indomitable could do, and it had made them pause. But pause wasn't the same as retreat. Maintain battle stations, she ordered. Keep all weapons hot. They're thinking now, trying to decide their next move. What do you think they'll do, Captain? Hayun asked. Jiwan stared at the alien fleet on the display. 47 ships, thousands of warriors, all trying to decide if the fight was worth the cost. They'll talk, she said finally, because now they know that winning won't be easy. And smart commanders don't waste lives on easy victories. The standoff continued. 2 fleets, 1 human and 1 alien, both armed and ready, both waiting to see who would blink first. The silence stretched between the 2 fleets like a taut wire, ready to snap at any moment. Hours passed with neither side moving, neither side backing down. Inside the Indomitable, the crew remained at their stations, alert but growing tired. Battle readiness was exhausting when nothing happened. Ambassador Suyin Han arrived on the bridge, her diplomatic robes swishing softly. She was a small woman in her 50s, with gray streaking through her black hair. She had negotiated treaties with 3 different alien species before, but never at gunpoint. Captain Kim, she said quietly, approaching the command chair. Permission to speak? Granted, Ambassador. We should try talking to them again. If this turns into a shooting war, everyone loses. Even if we win, the colony will be damaged. People will die, Jiwan nodded slowly. I know, but they need to be in the right frame of mind to listen. Right now, they're still processing what they've seen. Give them time. Dr. Narayun, the ship's xenobiologist, stood nearby studying readouts on a tablet. She was young, barely 30, but she had spent years studying alien psychology. Captain, Ambassador Suyin is right, but so are you. The Vacthron respect strength above all else. That's clear from their culture, their history, their whole social structure. If we had tried to negotiate before showing them what we could do, they would have seen it as weakness. And now? Suyin asked. Now they know we're dangerous. Now they'll actually listen when we talk, but we need to demonstrate our power one more time. Not with words. With action, Jiwan turned in her chair. What kind of action? Something that doesn't hurt anyone but shows them exactly what your weapons can do. They need to see it, not just read it on sensors. Jiwan thought for a moment, then nodded. Bowman scanned the system. Find me an asteroid. Something big but worthless. No minerals worth mining, far from any shipping lanes. Bowman's fingers flew across his console. Found one, Captain. Asteroid designated MB447. 2 kilometers across, mostly ice and rock. No strategic value. Current position puts it 300,000 kilometers from the colony and the alien fleet. Perfect. Hayun, calculate a firing solution for a single railgun round. I want to hit that asteroid dead center. Hayun's eyes widened. Captain, at this range, the round will be traveling at 0.3% light speed when it hits. I know, Jiwan said. That's the point. Communications. Inform the Vacthron fleet that we're conducting a weapons test. Tell them to watch carefully. The message went out across all frequencies. On the Vacthron flagship, Admiral Velmora received it with interest. A demonstration? They want to show us their weapons? Apparently, Thexali said. They've designated a target. Asteroid MB447, War Priest Kexther scoffed. Destroying rocks. How impressive. We could do the same with our plasma cannons. Let's see what they do first, Velmora said. All ships focus sensors on that asteroid. I want full recordings. Throughout the Vacthron fleet, sensor officers trained their instruments on the target asteroid. It was unremarkable, tumbling slowly through space, reflecting dim sunlight off its icy surface. Just another piece of cosmic debris. On the Indomitable, Hayun had her firing solution calculated. Target locked, Captain. Railgun 1 ready to fire. Fire when ready. Hyun pressed the trigger. The railgun turret adjusted its aim with microscopic precision. Inside the weapon's magnetic rails, a solid tungsten projectile 20 centimeters wide and 1 meter long accelerated down the barrel. Electromagnetic forces pushed it faster and faster, until it left the ship at nearly 900 kilometers per second. The round was invisible to the naked eye, moving too fast for human or Vacthron vision to track, but sensors caught it, and automated systems followed its path through space. It took 33 seconds to cross the distance to the asteroid. When it hit, the asteroid simply ceased to exist. The kinetic energy of the impact was equivalent to several hundred nuclear weapons detonating simultaneously. The asteroid didn't break apart or shatter. It vaporized. One moment there was a solid object 2 kilometers across. The next moment there was an expanding cloud of superheated gas and microscopic debris. The shockwave from the impact was visible on sensors, a sphere of energy radiating outward from the impact point. On the Vacthron flagship, every sensor officer went silent. Kulvan stared at his readings, then checked them again, certain he had made an error. But the numbers were correct. "Report," Velmora said quietly. Kulvan's voice shook. "Admiral, the asteroid is gone. Completely atomized. The energy release was... I don't have adequate words. One projectile did that. One solid piece of metal. How?" Kexther demanded. "How is that possible?" "Kinetic energy," Thexali said. He had gone very still. They accelerated a dense projectile to relativistic speeds. When it hit, all that kinetic energy converted to heat and force. It's actually a very simple principle. But the engineering required to make it work? How many more of those rounds do they have? Velmora asked. Thexali checked his sensors. Sensors indicate at least 40 more rounds in various magazines. And that's just what we can detect. There could be more stored deeper in the ship. The demonstration had the desired effect. Throughout the Vacthron fleet, captains and crew began to truly understand what they were facing. This wasn't just a powerful ship. This was a weapon system designed by a species that understood violence on a fundamental level. Jiwan watched the results on her display. The asteroid was simply gone, not even large fragments remaining. "Ambassador Suyin, I believe they're ready to talk now." Suyin stepped forward. "Open a channel, please." Admiral Velmora's face appeared on the screen. She looked older than before, tired. "That was quite a demonstration, Captain Kim." "That was one railgun, Admiral," Jiwan said. "We have 8. And that's just one weapon system among many. I'm not saying this to threaten you. I'm saying it so you understand the situation clearly." Suyin moved into view beside Jiwan. "Admiral Velmora, I am Ambassador Suyin Han of the Human Diplomatic Corps. I would very much like to avoid anyone dying today. May we speak?" Velmora studied the human ambassador for a long moment. "What do you wish to speak about?" "A peaceful resolution. You came here expecting to find a weak colony you could easily claim. Instead, you found us. But this doesn't have to end in battle. There's enough space in the galaxy for both our species. You would share this system?" Velmora asked, suspicious. "No," Suyin said firmly. "This system is ours. Our people live here. But there are thousands of other systems. We can define borders, establish treaties, trade even. The Vacthron have much to offer, and so do humans." War Priest Kexther's voice came through the channel. "This is weakness. We have the numbers. We attack and take what is ours by right of strength." Suyin's expression remained calm. "Strength? You have numbers, yes, but we just showed you what happens when one of our weapons fires. Now imagine all of them firing at once. Imagine 140 missiles, each carrying a nuclear warhead. Imagine 8 railguns firing in sequence. Imagine our main cannon, which we haven't even demonstrated yet." "You would lose," Kexther insisted. "Maybe," G1 said coldly, "but you would lose 30 ships, 30 crews, thousands of lives. And for what? One system? Is it worth that price?" The channel went silent. The question hung in the air between the two fleets. Dr. Nari had been right. The Vacthron respected strength, but they also respected logic. And the logic was clear. This battle would cost too much. Lieutenant Hyun quietly reported to Jiwan. "Captain, I'm detecting another energy signature. Something just entered the system at the far edge." "What kind of signature?" "Human, Captain. Multiple human signatures. It's the second fleet." Jiwan felt relief wash through her, though she kept her face calm. The second fleet was the backup she had requested 3 days ago when the Vacthron first appeared on long-range sensors. They had arrived at exactly the right moment. How many ships? 6, Captain. All military vessels. They're taking up defensive positions around the colony. Jiwan allowed herself a small smile. Don't mention it yet. Let's see if the Vacthron notice on their own. They did. 30 seconds later, Thexali's urgent voice could be heard on the Vacthron end of the communication. Admiral. More human ships. Multiple contacts. They just arrived in the system. Velmora's expression changed. Not fear exactly, but something close. Respect, perhaps, or recognition that the situation had shifted even further out of her favor. How many? She asked. 6 ships, Admiral. Similar class to the one we're facing. They're deploying around the colony. Suyin spoke gently. Admiral, you sent your entire battle fleet to take one colony. We sent 7 ships to defend it. And that's just our colonial defense force. This isn't even our main fleet. Do you understand what I'm telling you? Velmora understood perfectly. The humans had resources. They had multiple fleets. They had technology that matched or exceeded Vacthron capabilities. And most importantly, they were willing to fight but preferred to negotiate. I need to consult with my officers, Velmora said finally. Take your time, Suyin said. We're not going anywhere. The channel closed, G1 stood up from her command chair and walked to the viewport. Outside, the Vacthron fleet hung in space. 47 ships that had expected an easy victory. Now they faced a choice: fight and suffer massive casualties or negotiate and preserve their strength. Do you think they'll accept? Ayun asked. The Vacthron fleet maintained its position, but inside the flagship a heated debate raged. Admiral Velmora stood at the center of her command chamber, surrounded by holographic displays showing tactical data, casualty projections, and fleet status. Her forearms crossed in thought as her officers argued around her. War Priest Kexther paced back and forth, his old body still strong despite his age. We cannot show weakness. The sovereignty has ruled for 5,000 years because we never backed down from a fight. If we retreat now, every species in the galaxy will hear about it. They will think we are cowards. They will think we are wise, Thexali countered. There is no honor in wasting lives for pride. The humans have superior firepower. They have reinforcements. The mathematics are clear. Mathematics, Kexther spat. Wars are not won by mathematics. They are won by courage, by faith, by the willingness to sacrifice. Velmora raised one hand for silence. Enough. Before I make any decision, I need more information. What do we actually know about these humans? It was a good question. The Vacthron had been so confident in their superiority that they had done minimal research before launching their fleet. Now that overconfidence seemed foolish. On the Indomitable, Commander Taejin Shin entered the bridge. He was the ship's intelligence officer, a quiet man in his 40s who spent most of his time analyzing data. He carried a tablet filled with information. Captain, he said, the Vacthron are requesting a data exchange. They want to know more about us before making their decision. Jiwan considered this. What kind of data? General information. Our history, our culture, our technological development. Standard first contact information exchange. Ambassador Suyin nodded. That's actually a good sign. If they're gathering information, they're seriously considering negotiation. I recommend we comply. What should we tell them? Jiwan asked. Dr. Nari spoke up. The truth. Give them access to our historical databases. Let them see who we are and where we come from. Once they understand humans better, they'll realize that fighting us is a mistake. Taejin looked uncertain. Some of our history is not flattering. Wars, genocides, weapons of mass destruction. If they see all that, won't it make them think we're monsters? Or it will make them think twice about attacking us, Nari said. The Vacthron respect strength and military prowess. Our history shows we have plenty of both. Jiwan made her decision. Send them the historical database, full access. Let them see everything. The data transmission took several minutes to complete. Terabytes of information flowed across space to the Vacthron flagship. Historical records, cultural databases, military archives, everything humanity had been willing to share with other species. compiled into a comprehensive package. On the Vacthron ship, Elder Scholar Pixarian received the data with eager anticipation. She was very old, her skin faded to a pale gray, but her mind was still sharp. She had studied hundreds of alien species during her long life, and each new discovery excited her. She began to read through the human records, and with each passing minute, her excitement turned to shock, then to something approaching horror. "Admiral," she called across the command chamber, "you need to see this." Velmora walked over to the Scholar's station. "What have you found?" Pixarian's hands trembled slightly as she pulled up data on the holographic display. "Admiral, these humans, they come from a death world." A death world? Velmora had heard the term before, but never encountered a species that actually came from one. "Explain." "Their home planet, Earth, is classified as a Class 12 death world. The gravity is 1.3 times standard galactic average. The weather patterns are extremely violent. Hurricanes, tornadoes, floods, earthquakes. The planet seems actively hostile to life." "And yet they survived," Thexali said, coming over to look. "More than survived. They thrived. But look at this." Pixarian pulled up biological data. "Humans evolved in an environment filled with predators, large carnivores with massive teeth and claws, poisonous creatures, diseases. Their own planet tried to kill them for millions of years. That explains their ship's design," Thexali said. "They build for survival because survival is what they know." But Pixarian wasn't finished. "That's not the worst part. Look at their history. Wars. Constant, endless wars. They've been fighting each other for their entire recorded history. Tens of thousands of conflicts ranging from tribal battles to planet-wide wars." She pulled up a timeline, and the display filled with red markers indicating major conflicts. There were so many that they blurred together into an almost solid line. "By the ancestors," Velmora whispered. "How many wars?" "Thousands. And look at this. They developed nuclear weapons before they achieved space flight. They created the means to destroy their own planet before they left it." War Priest Kexthur had joined them now, staring at the data. For once, he was silent. Pixarian continued, her voice growing quieter. "During their 20th century, they fought 2 global wars. Hundreds of millions died. They invented weapons of incredible cruelty. Chemical weapons, biological weapons, nuclear bombs. And they used them, not in desperation at the end of a war, but as tools of strategy." She pulled up images of mushroom clouds, destroyed cities, mass graves. The holographic displays showed the aftermath of human conflicts in brutal detail. "They did this to themselves?" Thexali asked. "Yes, and then they learned from it. They got better at killing, more efficient. Look at their modern weapons, precision-guided missiles, orbital kinetic strikes, antimatter containment for bombs. And now this." She gestured to the data on the Indomitable. "Railguns capable of relativistic velocities, nuclear-pumped laser warheads, point defense systems so dense that nothing could get through." Velmora stared at the timeline. "The Vacthron, sovereignty has had 3 major wars in 5,000 years. These humans have had thousands of wars in just a few thousand years." "Exactly," Pixarian said. "We developed spaceflight first, then slowly developed weapons over millennia. They developed weapons first, perfected them through constant use, then brought those weapons to space. Admiral, they didn't build that warship to conquer. They built it because they're terrified of what might be out here in the galaxy." "Terrified?" Kexthur said. "They don't act terrified. Because fear made them strong. Their entire evolution was driven by the need to survive in an environment that wanted them dead. They became apex predators on a death world, and then they turned those predatory instincts on each other, driving their military technology forward at an incredible pace." Thexali was running calculations on his own terminal. "Scholar, if what you're saying is true, then they've had more practical combat experience than any species in known space." "Correct. The Vacthron have fought 3 wars. We're good at war because we're naturally strong and organized, but humans have fought thousands of wars. War isn't just something they do, It's something they are. It's in their culture, their history, their very psychology. Velmora thought about the human captain, Ji-won Kim. The woman had been calm throughout their encounter. Not aggressive, not boastful, just calm and professional. Now Velmora understood why. This wasn't the captain's first battle. Humans had been preparing for battle for their entire existence. "There's more," Pixarian said. "I accessed galactic historical databases. There have been other Death World species. Most went extinct. A few survived but never developed advanced technology. Only humans survived and thrived and reached the stars." She pulled up comparative data. "Look at their physical capabilities compared to standard galactic species. They can survive in temperature ranges that would kill most of us. They can heal from injuries that would be fatal to others. They have incredible endurance. On their world, they evolved as pursuit predators, able to chase prey for hours until it collapsed from exhaustion." "Pursuit predators," Velmora repeated. "They hunt by never giving up." "Exactly. And that mentality shows in everything they do. They don't give up. They don't surrender easily. If we start a war with them, it won't be a quick battle. It will be a long, bloody struggle, and they will never stop coming." The command chamber had gone silent. Every officer who heard the scholar's words understood the implications. Commander Tajin, back on the Indomitable, watched the Vakthron fleet on his sensors. "They've been quiet for a while now. They must be reviewing the data." "Let them look," Ji-won said. "Let them see what humans are capable of. Let them see our wars, our weapons, our history. Let them understand that we've been preparing for this moment for thousands of years, even if we didn't know it." Hyun looked at her captain. "Do you think our history will scare them?" "I hope so," Ji-won said quietly. "Because scared enemies negotiate. Confident enemies attack." On the Vakthron flagship, Admiral Velmora finally spoke. "Scholar Pixarian, in your expert opinion, what would happen if we attacked the humans?" The old scholar looked at her admiral with sad eyes. "We would probably win this battle. Our numbers are superior. But we would lose 30 ships just as Sub-Commander Thexali calculated, and then the humans would remember. They would study how we fight. They would adapt. They would improve. And the next time we met them, they would be ready. Humans learn from their defeats, Admiral. Their history proves it. Every war they lost taught them how to win the next one. And if we don't attack?" The communication channel opened, and Admiral Velmora's face appeared on the main screen of the Indomitable. Ji-won noticed immediately that something had changed in the alien commander's demeanor. The arrogance was gone, replaced by cautious respect. "Captain Kim, Ambassador Suyin," Velmora said, "we have reviewed your historical data. It has been enlightening." "I hope it provided the context you needed," Suyin said carefully. "It did." Velmora paused, choosing her words. "The Vakthron sovereignty has reconsidered its position. We no longer claim this system as part of our expansion territory." Relief flooded through the bridge of the Indomitable, though the crew kept their composure. Ji-won felt tension she hadn't known she was carrying drain from her shoulders. "That is wise, Admiral," Ji-won said. "Thank you." "However," Velmora continued, "we cannot simply leave. The sovereignty needs to save face. If we retreat without any agreement, it will appear as weakness. Other species will test our borders." Ambassador Suyin nodded, understanding the political reality. "Then let's give you something to take home. A formal treaty, a mutual non-aggression pact, defined borders, perhaps even trade agreements if both sides are interested." "Trade?" Thexali's voice came from off-screen. "What could humans possibly offer us?" "Technology sharing," Suyin said. "We've seen your biological ships. They're impressive, unlike anything we've built. You've seen our weapon systems and reactor technology. Imagine what we could achieve by combining our knowledge." There was a long pause. Ji-won could almost hear the debate happening on the Vakthron flagship. Finally, Velmora spoke again. "The sovereignty would be interested in discussing such arrangements. But we need something more immediate. A gesture of goodwill." "What kind of gesture?" Ji-won asked, suspicious. "Allow a delegation to visit your colony. Let us see how humans live. Let our people meet yours. Understanding breeds peace." Ji-won looked at Ambassador Suyin, who smiled. "That's actually a good idea, Admiral. And we'll send a delegation to one of your worlds as well. Cultural exchange, agreed, Velmora said. I will personally lead the Vakthron delegation. And I'll contact the colony governor, Suyin said. Governor Youngsu Bei will be pleased to host you. As the details were being worked out, Vice Admiral Hana Song contacted the Indomitable from her flagship in the Second Fleet. Her face appeared on a secondary screen. Captain Kim, status report? Situation under control, Admiral. The Vakthron have agreed to negotiations. No shots fired, Hana smiled. Good work, Jiwon. I knew you could handle it. My fleet will remain in defensive positions until the treaty is signed, but it looks like we won't be needed for combat. Your arrival helped, Jiwon said. When they saw 6 more ships, it sealed their decision to negotiate. That's what backup is for, Hana said. I'll coordinate with Ambassador Suyin on the treaty details. You and your crew have earned a rest. The channel closed and Jiwon allowed herself to relax for the first time in hours. All hands stand down from battle stations. Maintain standard alert status. Engineering, you can start powering down the reactors to normal levels. Throughout the ship, alarms stopped blaring. Red lights switched to yellow, then to green. Crew members who had been at their post for hours finally allowed themselves to breathe. In the engineering section, Chief Engineer Daehyun began the careful process of reducing reactor output. Well, he said to his team, we didn't blow anything up today. I call that a win. In the Marine Bay, Corporal Minho and his team began removing their armor. Private Sujin looked relieved. I really thought we were going to have to fight. Always better when you don't, Minho said. Fighting is what we train for, but peace is what we hope for. Down on the colony of New Pyongyang, Governor Youngsu Bei received the news with mixed emotions. He was glad there would be no battle, but hosting a delegation of aliens who had threatened his people just hours ago felt strange. Still, he prepared. The colony's main meeting hall was cleaned and decorated. Food was prepared, though they weren't sure what Vakthron could eat. Translators were tested and retested. 3 hours later, a Vakthron shuttle descended to the colony's landing pad. Governor Youngsu stood waiting with a small group of colonists. They watched nervously as the shuttle door opened and Admiral Velmora emerged, followed by Subcommander Thexali and Elder Scholar Pixarian. The Vakthron were impressive in person. Velmora stood 3 meters tall, her forearms moving with grace. Her skin shimmered in the sunlight, colors shifting across its surface. She looked around the colony with keen interest. Governor Bei, she said, her translator device rendering her words into Korean. Thank you for receiving us. Youngsu bowed slightly, a traditional gesture of respect. Welcome to New Pyongyang, Admiral. Please come inside. We have much to discuss. The tour of the colony took several hours. The Vakthron were fascinated by human architecture, by the way humans grew food in greenhouses, by the schools where human children learned. They noticed that the colony was built for permanence, not just temporary habitation. You plan to stay here for generations, Pixarian observed. Yes, Youngsu said. This is our home now. We left Earth to build something new here. But you still maintain your connection to Earth, the scholar noted. I see art from your homeworld, cultural symbols, traditional practices. We bring our culture with us, Youngsu said. We're building a new home, but we don't forget where we came from. That evening, a formal dinner was held. The Vakthron could eat some human food and humans could eat some Vakthron food, though neither found the other's cuisine particularly appealing. Still, they shared a meal and shared stories. Admiral Velmora spoke of the Vakthron sovereignty, its long history of peace and prosperity. Youngsu spoke of Earth, of Korea, of the decision to leave and build new lives among the stars. Your people are very brave, Velmora said, to leave everything you know and travel to an unknown world. Your people are brave too, Youngsu replied. You traveled across space to explore and expand. That takes courage. But we came prepared to conquer, Velmora said quietly. You came prepared to build. We also came prepared to defend what we build, Youngsu said. As you saw today, Velmora nodded slowly. Yes, your warship is remarkable. I have commanded fleets for 30 years and I have never seen anything like it. The Indomitable is one of our newer designs, Youngsu said. We have others. How many others? Youngsu smiled but didn't answer directly. Enough to protect our colonies, and more being built. The message was clear. Humanity was here to stay, and they had the means to defend themselves. Over the next 3 days, negotiations continued on the Indomitable. Ambassador Suyin led the human delegation, while Admiral Velmora represented the Vakthron sovereignty. They hammered out the details of a non-aggression pact. The treaty established clear borders. The Vakthron would not expand into human space, and humans would not expand into Vakthron space. Trade routes were defined. Communication protocols were established. A framework for future diplomatic relations was created. Dr. Nari worked with Vakthron scholars to begin cultural exchange programs. Scientists from both species would share research. Students would study each other's languages and histories. Lieutenant Hayun and her counterpart in the Vakthron fleet even exchanged notes on weapon systems. Though neither side shared their most advanced secrets, still the gesture built trust. On the 4th day, the treaty was signed. Captain Jiwan and Admiral Velmora stood together on the Indomitable's bridge, both signing the formal document. Cameras recorded the moment for both species' historical records. "This is a good day," Velmora said. "Peace is always better than war." "Agreed," Jiwan said. "May our peoples never see each other as enemies again." "I make no promises about never," Velmora said with what might have been a smile. "But not today. Not over this." The Vakthron fleet prepared to depart. Ships that had arrived ready for battle now left in peace. As they moved away from the colony, Velmora sent one final message to the Indomitable. "Captain Kim, you and your crew have my respect. You could have destroyed many of my ships today. You had the power to do so, but you chose restraint. That is true strength," Jiwan inclined her head. "You also showed wisdom, Admiral. You could have attacked despite the odds. Many commanders would have let pride override reason, but you chose your people's lives over your ego. That is true leadership." "Perhaps our species are not so different after all," Velmora said. "Perhaps not," Jiwan agreed. The channel closed. The Vakthron fleet jumped to faster-than-light travel and vanished from the system. On the bridge of the Indomitable, the crew finally allowed themselves to celebrate. Hayun pumped her fist in the air. Bowman laughed with relief. Even normally stoic Jiwan allowed herself a genuine smile. "Well done, everyone," she said. "You performed admirably. We faced impossible odds and won without firing a shot. That's what I call a victory." Commander Tajin approached with a report. "Captain, intelligence suggests the Vakthron will spread word of this encounter throughout the galaxy. Other species will learn that humans are not to be underestimated." "Good," Jiwan said. "Let them learn. Maybe the next time someone discovers a human colony, they'll think twice before threatening it." 3 months later, formal diplomatic relations between humanity and the Vakthron sovereignty were fully established. Trade began slowly but steadily.